Remind me, why are we going to the cinema with you dressed like that?
Well, firstly, it's Halloween weekend. Secondly, it's our Halloween special. And thirdly, we're going to go and see a film about ghosts. So...
No, we're not.
What do you mean?
It's a James Bond film.
What, Spectre?
Yeah.
Are you f***ing kidding me?
No.
Oh. Well, I haven't got time to get changed now.
No.
Ah, it. Hello, I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
And you're watching That Review Show. And we've just been to see Spectre, which, as it turns out, is not a ghost film, but is the new James Bond movie.
Who'd have thought?
You had no authority. None. Mexico City. What were you doing there?
I was taking some overdue holiday.
So what's going on, James? They say you're finished.
What do you think?
I think you're just getting started.
Yeah, so how exactly did you not realise that this was a James Bond film?
Well, they've kept it quiet, haven't they? They could have put some marketing around the thing.
I've got your phone. Will you do me a favour next time, please? Don't pick on yourself.
So, Matt, what was Spectre about?
Well, it's a James Bond film.
Yeah, it was very, very much a James Bond film, which some positives inherent in that, and also I felt a few negatives, which I will discuss later. For now, what did you think of Spectre? How did you like it?
Well, I've been thinking about it. So, I came away entertained. I did enjoy it. It's definitely flawed, and I'm going to come out right away and say it. It's no Casino Royale, but it is better than Quantum of Solace.
I think you had a slightly more positive reaction.
I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it overall. I thought, I've come away entertained. It's not quite as good as it could have been, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, I think it really fell short in a few places. The opening sequence up to a point was really good fun. It started out really well, and I thought, this is good. We're on solid ground here. But even by the end of that scene, I'd started to be a little irritated by kind of tropey type moments. Henchmen that fight to the death, that kind of thing. And then but I have to admit, by the hour point, I was very bored.
I thought that they were trying to, with this one, they were trying to combine the old school storytelling, the whole big bad guy trying to take over the world, with the newer style.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite work. It's like, sometimes it kind of worked almost, but it never quite does work. It never quite works.
The thing is, James Bond, as we know it, doesn't work in a modern setting. And that's why Casino Royale, they kind of almost wiped the slate clean. There was no Q, you didn't have Moneypenny, and you had things like, I can't remember exactly what the witty bit of dialogue was about the gadgets in the car, but the gadgets in the car was just a defibrillator.
Yeah.
And then in Skyfall, you had Q was introduced, and you had moments like, Bond says, oh no, he gives him the radio and the gun, and he says, oh, it's not very exciting, and Q says, what did you want, an exploding pen? We don't really go in for that sort of thing anymore.
That's it, I like that line.
And that was like elbowing out the remnants of old Bond. Yeah. And then this film was just like, come in, old Bond,
yeah,
come in
a way,
misogyny and stupid gadgets and things that make no sense in the modern world. And
yeah. That's where it didn't work. It was trying to bring in the two, merge the two styles. It felt odd. The film feels conflicted. It was inconsistent. That's the word I immediately thought of when it finished. I thought, I did enjoy moments of that, but overall, I think there was too many weird bits that misfired, which brought down my enjoyment, I think.
Yeah. So if I could talk about tropes for a minute.
Yeah.
So you had tropes like, you're always going to have the Bond girls. And I just thought both of them in this were handled really poorly. You had Monica Bellucci, who was an older Bond girl, although she's actually the same age as Daniel Craig, and she was in it for all of 2 minutes. And that was your typical sort of Bond borderline rape scene, the love scene between them. It was a very awkward way of doing an expository scene, you know.
Yeah, she changed her mind pretty quickly after being very resistant to her. Like,
after being pinned to the wall.
Yeah.
And then new Bond girl, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say they end up getting together. And there was a moment where I was really hoping that they wouldn't, because she was very, like, straight away, she's like, don't get the wrong idea, I'm not going to fall into your arms, that is not happening. And I was like, oh good, maybe she's not going to sleep with him. Not only did she sleep with him, about 4 hours after that, she tells him she loves him. And it was just like, and it was just that old Bond, you know, from the 60s. He walks in and the women just go, I'll sleep with you then.
But he was being tortured at the time. I mean, that's quite a manly thing to do.
Yeah, true. But they also did the Bond trope of the big henchman, and he was just, like, the way he was introduced, you're never going to get a thumb in the eyes that will live up to Oberyn in Game of Thrones. So that was underwhelming. And
well, it was a 12A film, it's not a...
But that whole scene was crowbarred in where they just decide to kill one of their organisation. Why? Because it makes a good introduction for the big henchman. That was about it. And, you know, he irritated me, and the car scenes with things and guns and bollocks.
You were underwhelmed.
I was underwhelmed, and it comes back to what you were saying. It was all the old Bond elements that they tried to fit in that just didn't work. It was, yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, the main thing that annoyed me about this film, there was not a single standout action scene. The Casino Royale had the cool parkour scene. That was awesome. It was new. It was fresh. It was cool. Skyfall, while it had Skyfall itself, the house. That was just a cool way to big moment.
Yeah.
This didn't have anything. It was just it did a bit like the Quantum of Solace thing, where it was just literally a bit of talking and then an action scene, and a bit of talking and an action scene. I felt a little bit like it was doing that again, which. That's just a no-no. It's just, there was nothing special about it. It was a car chase that was just literally just Bond casually driving around. He was making these little jokes.
He was on the phone. He was using his hands free, and that doesn't add tension.
No, he was so casual. He was just casually there, and you and you mentioned that when we walked out of the cinema, you mentioned about him getting stuck behind a Mondeo or whatever it was, that little Micra.
It was a Fiat 500.
Right, okay.
They paid good money to have a Fiat 500 in that film, and let's give it its credit. Yeah. It was a Fiat 500 sky blue.
That's it, and he got stuck behind it. And I was thinking, why the hell are you not just turning off and going off? You're trying to get away from this guy. Why are you staying behind? You don't have to stay behind the guy.
So many side alleys that you whizzed past.
And it's just silly. I couldn't help thinking comparing it to the Mission Impossible film, the new one that came out a few months ago. I saw that in the cinema. That got humour right. It's doing the whole modern spy thing, and it is tongue-in-cheek and silly, the way that the old James Bond films were. But now this is James Bond, who is supposedly, they've been doing this for 50 years or whatever. You'd think they'd be able to get the balance between humour and action right. In this, they just didn't. It just didn't. It was silly, and it didn't need to be silly. Since Daniel Craig has come in, they're more of a serious Bond. They're trying to do a bit more of a gritty, that whole feel.
Yeah.
And
the Christopher Nolan effect.
Yeah, but this felt like a step back. It just didn't.
Yeah, the comedy was irksome. All the attempts at humour were just sort of like, except one line that Ralph Fiennes has towards the end, which was brilliant, but then they ruined it because
they added an extra word, and it's like you oversold it. It's like you had it perfect, and then kind of fell flat again. But that was the thing on it. Just not. I can't even. Usually, I like to go to this film to see a film that has good action scenes. Apart from the very opening, which was admittedly pretty good, everything before the post-credit sequence, apart from this stupid helicopter scene with the pilot that can't fly to save his life.
Yeah, so this going back to the tropes that I was talking about, the two guys are fighting in the back of the helicopter, and the pilot is for some reason still doing all this. Like, Bond's poking him occasionally, but you think just level it out and keep it level, let them get on with it. And then once Bond has dispatched the villain, the pilot's trying to fight him while flying the helicopter, so they're spinning around. And like, surely, as that pilot, the guy in the back has just killed your boss. You say,
Fair enough.
"Do you know what? I'll just land then. You get out. We'll just assume that I don't know he's a supervillain, and I just get paid to fly a helicopter." Because to be fair, as far as Bond knows,
Yeah.
that might just be a chartered helicopter flight, and that guy's completely innocent.
John Bond did start getting involved, punching the shit out of that guy immediately. It was like, whoa.
That's the kind of stupid stuff you used to get in the old Bonds.
I know what you mean. I didn't mind it so much. I did kind of like the way they introduced the bad guy and they've set up his, his whole organisation. I thought was cool, but it just didn't. It wasn't convincing. It just didn't. His whole, and we're going to probably start getting into the spoiler territory now, but
Yeah, shall we do that then? Shall we
maybe
say,
we should. Maybe now's a good time.
if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time code, because we are about to discuss the villain, the evil organisation, the twists, the revelations.
Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about it.
If you accidentally don't skip, though, don't worry, because they were all really, really fucking boring. So you're all good. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's go straight into it. I mean, it's Blofeld. Christoph Waltz, he is Blofeld. The bald, you'll remember him as the bald guy who was stroking the cat in the old films.
I think it's Blofeld, actually.
Blofeld.
Sam Mendes must be the worst mathematician in the world, because, and I'll tell you why, Bond villain plus Christoph Waltz should equal 10. Like, easily should equal 10.
Yeah.
In Spectre, Bond villain plus Christoph Waltz, Sam Mendes has somehow managed to come out at like a sort of 4.
I was going to give it 3. I was a bit harsh, maybe, but yeah. It's just, he's so underused.
Just
So underused.
he's barely in it. I mean, he's fine in it, but you know, Christoph Waltz,
He could have stole the whole film.
yeah, like Javier Bardem stole Skyfall. And he was a tough act to follow, to be fair.
Yeah. He's simply not given enough time to do anything. I think he was on the screen for all of 6 minutes in the whole film,
Probably you're not far
which
off.
is not enough for who he is and for the actor and for what the significance of him as a villain in the Bond series.
Yeah.
He should have been front and center, and he wasn't. He was because he was the one organising everything, but we didn't get to see him do anything really. He was supposed to be this big mastermind, and we were supposed to just take that at face value. We weren't given any reason to understand that that's what he is, and I didn't want to go with it. I didn't buy into it.
No. So Blofeld was the head of Spectre, which is this global criminal organisation. They've got, infiltrators, they've got moles all over the place. Obviously there's one at MI6, which, another trope. MI6 is being shut down. Bond is redundant, he's a dinosaur. Bond's having to go on his own. Even M has said to him, you have to stop what you're doing. Of course I will.
Didn't they do this in Skyfall?
Yeah,
already?
pretty much. And Casino Royale. In fact, they put the tracker in his arm in Casino Royale.
Yeah, they did that as well.
And they do the exact same thing in this. So lots of tropes. Anyway, now I had kind of hoped, based on Casino Royale and Skyfall, that this film was going to be about him hunting down Spectre, taking out the key players. It turns out he's already sort of done that in the previous films. They kind of tied it all in. They were like, oh, all these people were part of it. And then Christoph Waltz Blofeld is the only one left, really. So it's not really Spectre. It should be called Blofeld. The other thing that annoyed me about Blofeld was the reveal of him being Blofeld was a bit rubbish. And also they made it so that he and Bond were adoptive long lost brothers, and
that was shoehorned in, wasn't it? The reason for their connection was
and then
came out of nowhere.
That informed his decision to want to kill Bond, but it was one of those things where so his dad adopted Bond when Bond was orphaned as a kid, and Christoph Blofeld basically got so jealous that he killed his dad, but he didn't kill Bond. But then so he goes off and becomes a supervillain, and by pure coincidence, Bond goes off and becomes an MI6 agent, which means that they are therefore destined to be pitted against each other, which is like a sort of happy coincidence for Blofeld because he wants to kill Bond. So, well, why didn't you just kill him when you were... The whole thing is really...
It's like contrived, isn't it?
It's just bollocks. And every twist in this film was so underwhelming. It was just like, oh, he's Blofeld. Oh, they're brothers. I just felt like that the whole way through. And then you had the meh action that you've already mentioned. And it just, for me, I think you were slightly more positive about the film as a whole than I was. For me, I thought on a technical level, there were some really good bits. The opening...
Yeah, it was well made. I thought it was really well shot and everything. No, but he is a good director, let's face it. I think Sam Mendes is a good director, and I think he's done now, isn't he, with Bond? I can't...
I'm pretty
this
sure...
felt like the end of his time, and even the way the film ended with... He doesn't kill Blofeld, which I wasn't sure if they would or not. So, but it doesn't also seem like they've set up sequels, because he is alive, but they've captured him, so it's like... kind of leaving it open, but...
Let's hope Christoph Waltz doesn't overdose on anything. Otherwise we'll just have Bane as the villain in the next movie and sweep it all under the rug.
But yeah, I mean, I think Sam Mendes was basically saying goodbye.
Which is stupid because Bond isn't going goodbye anytime soon. Wait, Daniel Craig should. I love Daniel Craig, but it's getting embarrassing. It's getting back to that Roger Moore levels of cringe where it's like granddad sleeping with the young ladies, and you're like, oh, like. And I love Daniel Craig. I think he's great, and he's not that old. But James Bond, Madeline Swan could almost have been like a father-daughter relationship, which would have been a nice twist on the. But they went for. And it was just like, there's that scene where she said they're in the back of the car going somewhere, and she says to him, "I'm scared," and he just leans across and holds her hand, and he like had his gnarled old sort of hand, you know, all sun-spotted and everything on her lovely milky soft skin, and it was just a bit like, oh, this is uncomfortable.
So yeah, Chris, I think I can tell your answer, but did you think it was worth the ticket price?
I'm sort of torn on this one because I think if you like Bond, you're going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
I think some of it was really well done, but generally I would go on not recommending it, purely because I was really bored for most of it.
You know it's bad when you're checking your watch.
I was fluttering between bored and irritated. The action was, like you said, just sort of middle of the road, and all those old tropes coming back were out of place and irritating. I didn't like the way the women were treated in this film. Yeah.
Fair enough.
How about you, Matt? Did you think Spectre was worth the ticket price?
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn actually. I think overall, just about. I did enjoy it. I've come away feeling entertained. I think for me, it's going to be a bit like Jurassic World in the sense that when I came out of that, I really enjoyed it actually, and I liked it. But the longer it goes on away from the film, I think the longer I leave it, the more I'll realise that, you know what, it wasn't that great. The action scenes for me just ruined it. I like to go to cinema to see good action scenes, and there just weren't enough in this. They were underwhelming. That said, I think it's just about worth seeing. If you like James Bond, you'll probably find a good reason to enjoy. You'll find something to get out of it. You'll get something out of it, is what I mean to say. Ah,
right. One last thing that I've just remembered that really annoyed me. There's a scene in this, and whatever spoilers, where the Aston Martin that got blown up in Skyfall is being repaired.
Uh-huh.
And that annoyed me to start with, because I was like, no, you were destroying old Bond by destroying that Aston Martin. That was the point. That was thematically what you were doing. And not only are they then, doing it up again, but Q says, he makes a little joke and he says, all that was left was the steering wheel. I told you to bring it back in one piece, not bring back one piece of it. And instantly I went, no you didn't. Bond got that out the garage in Skyfall. He had it in storage. You never gave him that car. That was his car.
Yeah, you're kind of right.
Bollocks.